Hey guys, this is Connor from Team Blastburn. I know you haven't seen a lot of me in other videos, and that's because I haven't been in any other videos. But today I'm here with you with a deck profile of a deck that's kind of fallen under the radar lately. It's Landorus Mewtwo Garbodor. People played it last year during the state season, and it took down a couple of events. It was piloted by a few notable players, and then it fell out of favor when Plasma Freeze was released and Plasma Kyurem took a hold on the format. It hit Landorus EX for weakness, and Mewtwo EX was starting to fall out of power, especially with the prevalence of Deoxys, so it wasn't as good of a play. But with the way the format is shaping up now, going into regionals after the Klasinski Open, it looks like this deck could definitely be a contender in the upcoming regional format. Alright, so moving into the actual deck, to start things off, we've got 3 Landorus EX. Its first attack, Hammerhead, for 1 fighting energy, deals 30 damage to the active Pokemon and 30 damage to a benched Pokemon, and its second attack, Lance Judgment, for 2 fighting and a colorless, deals 80 damage, or if you discard all fighting energy attached to Landorus EX, it deals 150 damage. So let's just focus on Hammerhead right now. Hammerhead is great against Darkrai EX, which is Darkrai Garbodor is a huge deck in the format right now, definitely a contender for the best deck, and is probably going to be the most popular deck going into regionals. With that fighting weakness, Landorus EX really capitalizes on its low energy attack because it can deal 60 damage for 1 energy and put 30 damage somewhere else on the board. Whether that goes to a Sableye or a Darkrai, each of them have their purposes, and it's very beneficial, that extra 30 on the bench. But with Hypnotoxic Laser, you can potentially get a 2-turn knockout using just Hammerhead on a Darkrai. With the 30 damage that goes to the bench, you can lessen the number of Hypnotoxic Lasers that you need for that, so it's just a very effective card against Darkrai EX, which is the biggest reason why it's in there, because it's not very good against Plasma. Plasma Kyurem can come out of nowhere much too fast. It's not good against Blastoise Keldeo, because Keldeo can one-shot it very easily. It's good against Virizion Genesect, it's good against Darkrai, and it's good against Rogue decks, and if there's actually another of these in the area, then it's good for Mirror Match. So what Landorus is going to do is it's going to take those knockouts on Darkrai, and against Virizion Genesect, it can set those 30s up early in the game, and then you can use Lance Judgment to take out those big attackers, such as if a Genesect EX has a G booster on it, you can knock that Genesect EX out with a Lance Judgment by discarding your fighting energy. So, moving on to Mewtwo EX. Mewtwo EX is good against everything that Landorus EX is not good against, and it's still good against the things that it is good against. To break that down, it's good against Plasma because it's really the only attacker you can reliably resort to against Plasma decks, just because they utilize Pokemon that can knock out Landorus EX in one hit, whereas Mewtwo is not weak to anything aside from Deoxys, and if they initiate a Deoxys war, it's going to be a lot harder for them to keep up with it than it's going to be for you to keep up with it. Mewtwo EX is great against Plasma Kyurem because for a double colorless energy, Mewtwo can easily X-Ball with Kyurem with the assistance of a Hypnotoxic Laser and knock it out in one hit, even if it's charged up fully for a Blizzard Burn. Mewtwo EX is great against Virizion Genesect. It deals 80 damage to any Virizion that is already fully charged for Emerald Slash, and it deals 60 damage on the first turn if the Virizions only got 1 energy on it. So it applies a ton of early pressure to Virizion Genesect, and it hits Genesect EX very hard as well. Mewtwo EX is just a very versatile card, very powerful attacker with X-Ball because Psystrike will never be used, it doesn't have the right number of energy, and Mewtwo EX is definitely the biggest card in the deck as far as attackers go, most versatile, and a fantastic attacker in general. Moving into the Garbodor line, we've got 3 Trubbish, Dragon's Exalted number 53 because of its pound attack for 2 colorless energy, and its 70 HP. 70 HP is a big number right now just because of all the attackers that deal 30 damage to a benched Pokemon. It makes it so they have to hit you 3 times, and by then you've probably got a Garbodor instead of a Trubbish on your bench, so it's basically ineffective. They have to hit a Garbodor 4 times with 30 damage snipe to make it effective. And then we use the one with pound because we don't have the potential energy to even think about using Tool Drop, and a double colorless pound for 20 is actually an option in this deck. Into the Garbodors, we've got 2 Garbodors with Garbotoxin. They are obviously the heart of the deck. They make it so Blastoise is actually a winnable matchup. They slow Plasma down because they knock off Lugia EX's ability, they prevent Deoxys from adding any damage, so it's great. Virizion Genesect can suddenly be affected by conditions, and they cannot red signal your other Pokemon up. It's just a fantastic card, shuts off Darkrai's Dark Cloak. Garbodor is great in this deck, and it's really what makes it work, what allows it to perform well in this format. We also run 1 Plasma Storm 66 Garbodor with Biosmog, and just in case you don't know, what Biosmog does is for 1 colorless energy, it deals 20 damage, and then from there, it poisons 100% of the time, and then you flip a coin, and if it's heads, you discard one of your opponent's energy. Now, against Blastoise, this can be very effective because you can discard their energies if they don't have access to a Tool Scrapper to be able to deluge. It's very good against actually Mirror Match if you manage to come across a Landorus deck because it keeps them from using Land's Judgment if you can hit heads even 50% of the time. It'll slow them down a pretty good deal, and then they've got to burn all these switching cards just to get Landorus out of the active spot because it's a very heavy Pokemon. Moving into the trainer supporters and stadiums, we run 4 Professor Juniper. Professor Juniper is easily the best supporter in the format. There's really no reason not to run 4 of it, especially in a deck like this. You can discard some important pieces, yes, but it's not a big enough drawback to justify less than 4. We run 4N. It's pretty self-explanatory. N is just a fantastic supporter as well. There's no reason not to run 4N in this deck because you don't need a ton of cards at once. You only need a Pokemon and an energy to attack, so there's really no reason to run less than 4N, especially because it's a good advantage in the beginning and it can slow your opponent down in the endgame. Run 3 Colress just because you're always going to have at least a couple of Pokemon on the bench, another attacker, and a Garbodor, and in a lot of cases you're going to have 3 or 4 Pokemon on bench with a couple of Garbodor and a couple of attackers, or something a mix like that, and Colress will really help capitalize on that, and then a lot of the time an opponent will fill their bench very large as well, so you can Colress for larger amounts of cards. But we only run 3 because you don't want to start with it, and in the earlier game in general, in this deck, it's just not very useful. It's not like Plasma where your bench will just explode, so only 3. And then we run 3 Skyla as well. I personally hate Skyla, however, I can't deny that it's very useful in this deck. If you only need 1 card at a given time, it can search you out that trainer, it can get you your Dowsing Machine, it can get you a Burbank City Gym, it can get you whatever you need, it can get you a supporter. So unfortunately, I can't deny its utility, especially with getting Ultra Balls to set up Garbodors. So I have to run 3 of it, even though I would really rather not. In the items, we run 4 Pokemon Catcher. Pokemon Catcher is just a fantastic card. Pull up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, decide which Pokemon you want to hit. It's very, very useful. 4 of it, almost an auto-include in everything. 4 Hypnotoxic Laser. Hypnotoxic Laser is great for adding damage, combos with Burbank City Gym to add 30 damage in between every single turn that Pokemon is active, and it can put the Pokemon to sleep, which, in addition to Garbodor, can put your opponent in some very difficult spots where they have to burn a lot of resources, or they have to have that crucial switch, and they can't utilize a Keldeo. For Floatstone, Floatstone will not only power up your Garbodor's Garbotoxin ability, but it will also allow it to free retreat, so it's a good pivot point when your Pokemon get knocked out. It will also allow your Landorus EX and Mewtwo EX to retreat for free as well, which is the reason why there's such a heavy count. You have to get Garbotoxin in play, and you're going to want to retreat Landorus and Mewtwo a fair amount of the time. 3 Ultra Ball, I'd like 4, but really this deck doesn't have enough cards that it would feel comfortable throwing away to justify a 4th, and there's not enough space to include a 4th either. But 3 Ultra Ball works pretty well, especially with the 3 Trubbish, which get it into play a lot more easily. 3 Ultra Ball is just a great card, searches whatever you need, any Pokemon. Like I said, there's not much that this deck wants to throw away, so unfortunately the discard is entirely a detriment, but usually you can get around it, throw away unwanted Burbank City Gyms or something to that effect. 3 Ultra Balls, just in general, good play. We're not drowning in them because we don't play 4, and we have them pretty frequently because we still play 3. So, 2 Max Potion. Max Potion is one of the best cards, in my opinion, in the format. It's great for prize denial, and in this deck, since all of your attackers attack for so cheap, you can afford to run a couple of Max Potion. It's not really going to hurt you at all, and it's going to put a ton of strain on your opponent trying to knock out so many Pokemon, well, the equivalent of so many Pokemon, because they have to continue attacking into the same attacker because you keep Max Potioning it off. We run 1 Switch. I'd like more Switch in here too, but really, with 4 Floatstone, you can reliably get your active out of the active spot pretty frequently. Mewtwo EX only retreats for 2 energy, so with 4 double colorless, a lot of time you can just manually retreat, and if you're going for the Max Potion afterward, it's not going to hurt you anyway. So 1 Switch, just because it's very useful. It gets you out of sleep if you're asleep. It gets you out of paralysis if you ever, for some crazy chance, encounter paralysis now since Tynamo's gone. But 1 Switch, very good play. 1 Dowsing Machine. Dowsing Machines are A-spec here. I really love Dowsing Machine. I think it's got a lot more utility than Computer Search because Computer Search just begs to burn its owner out. When you play a Computer Search, you're going down 2 cards in your hand alone, and then you take 1 out of your deck, which is exactly what you need. However, those discards can really hurt, especially in a deck like this where you can't reliably get much back except for Dowsing Machine. So I run Dowsing Machine. Also, this is a slower deck. There's a lot more cards that you'll want to get back with Dowsing Machine, and with Max Potion and Switch being at lower counts, you can use Dowsing Machine to get back those. 2 Enhanced Hammer as well, because Enhanced Hammer is mainly for the Plasma matchup. There are a couple of rogue decks, sure, that run Special Energy, but primarily for the Plasma matchup. Really, all you just need a crucial Enhanced Hammer, maybe two. Most of the time, you're just going to need to get that Enhanced Hammer off at the right time, so you're going to hold it. Obviously don't throw it away against Plasma, but don't waste it in the early game either on a Thundurus or something like that. You want to knock a Kyurem down from 2 energy to 1 energy, and that will really put them at a disadvantage because it prevents them from using Frost Spear, provided you knocked off a colored energy. So moving into the energy, we've got 4 double colorless energy and 7 fighting energy. Double colorless energy is to power up Mewtwo. It's good for retreating Pokemon just because most of the Pokemon in this deck are pretty heavy, just in case you can't get a Float Stone. It allows Trubbish to attack with Pound, and it's just great in here. 4 of, auto include really. And then 7 fighting energy, used to run 8, drop down to 7, and I haven't really had any problems. There's very rarely an opportunity for you to get a Land's Judgment off with Landorus just because of the power of the attackers in this format. So 7 fighting energy is enough to keep max potions going and still being able to hammerhead enough, and then you also won't be drowned in them because they're not a very mobile card. You can only play 1 a turn, so they're not always going to help you out. This has been Connor Lavelle from Team Blastburn with your Landorus Mewtwo Garbodor deck analysis. Be sure to check out Travion's Dark-Eye Garbodor analysis and Michael's Blastoise Keldeo analysis. If you liked this video and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next deck analysis or battle video. Thanks for watching!